The tables have turned and the silent majority is now silent no more. Today I interview Anita Krishna, a former global news director who has been speaking out and was let go for doing so. She held their own journalistic standards against them and said that they should have been reporting on the other side of the story. You're not going to want to miss this report, and if you're new to Rebel News, that's exactly what we do here. We bring you the other side of the story fearlessly, and we do so independently. We don't take a penny from the federal government's media bailout so that we are accountable to you. And if that's something you'd like to get behind and ensure we continue to do so, please help us by donating what you can at rebelnews.com/donate. We appreciate your support. I'm Drea Humphrey, and let's get to this interview.
Research is just looking something up on the internet, and we are reading what other doctors are saying. We can read. Did the mainstream media forget that we can read?
Anita, you worked for Global News for a long time. Tell us a little bit about what you did there over your time as an employee there.
Oh, if I actually tell you when I started, I will completely date myself and it'll totally reveal my age, but I actually started there in 1997. I don't even know how old, let's just not even say how old I was at the time, but I'm in my late 40s now. So I worked there for 24 years. And when I started there, I was never a reporter there, never a journalist. I always worked in the newsroom, but I was an assistant director, which just basically meant when the shows went to air, we timed the show, we called the keys, which means if you're going to put Joe Smith, farmer, we go 5 to key Joe, 4, 3, 2, 1, key, and the TD would key it. You know, just it was a very technical job. We'd rip the scripts and hand it out to people. We had camera people, audio people, teleprompter directors, TDs, and an AD, so I did that for many years. But for the past 11 years, I was a director there. So I would just hit the buttons. Became automated, and you press the buttons, cut the cameras. So you're directing the shots and you're cutting as you're directing at the same time. We also make all the background virtual that you see. So if we're doing a story on a big fire or something, usually the director will pick the shot of the fire, make a graphic, put the graphic in the screen behind the anchor, you know, that type of thing. So it was that type of very technical job.
Absolutely. And were you also watching all of what was being reported in the news as well as you're helping with the technical aspect?
I always say this, that because when we're directing and you're cutting the shots and you're going to the next thing and what's next? Oh, it's a live hit. What's next? Oh, it's the helicopter. And you're timing the show. Lots of times, full disclosure, whatever was on the show, you don't actually hear and pay attention to sometimes. And when the news is done, it's done. And you're like, what did we just say? As a director, you're so busy, right? Mm-hmm. If you're writing the news, you know the news, right? So sometimes we'd do a newscast and I wasn't paying attention. You're like, oh, I don't even know what we said. But there came a point in 2020 where I really started to pay attention.
Now, you say you noticed a change in 2020. Tell us a little bit more about what that change was.
Yeah, not to say that I didn't pay attention, but I wasn't a hardcore newsie. I loved my entertainment and stuff like that. But I really started to pay attention because it just seemed like two worlds were developing like that. Mm-hmm. So I remember March 12th, I was directing quite a few shows there that day, one of their national broadcasts too. And the whole world was starting to shut down that day. So all the airlines were shutting down and all the sports teams, all the games were shut. This was canceled, this season was canceled, etc. And it just seemed like such a dramatic overreach and it's such a dramatic thing to do over this virus, right? That we knew so little about at the time. And everybody was beavering around. And I was like, why are they doing this to this extreme? So something didn't feel right that day, March 12th, I believe it was.
Yeah, I think it was March 11th. But yeah, a lot of people, everybody was trying to figure out what was going on. And I think there were some people who were saying something doesn't quite feel right. So flash forward, we're almost 2 years later. You're no longer a global employee. Tell us a little bit about why that is. What was the incident that occurred that got you investigated and then ultimately terminated?
The specific, I don't know. it was a few things, but they all came so fast and furious. You know, if maybe I could go back for just one sec, I would say that a lot of people on sort of the other side, I don't even want to pick sides because I want everybody to be together. But, you know, things like the Wuhan lab investigation, that was not thoroughly reported. Anthony Fauci's involvement in the lab, his funding of the lab with the NIH and the NIAID was never reported. And then boom, at the end of the year, vaccine. Here's the vaccine. I said, where the hell did this vaccine come from? Like, how could we have a vaccine when people are still injecting insulin in them? How can this even be?
So many vaccines at once.
So many of them. Where did they get? How are they doing this so quickly, right? I said, this is, hey, wait a minute, right? It was that I went to a rally just as a private citizen, as an individual, motivated by my own sort of concern at the craziness I was seeing. I went to the rally. And then I said hi to a nurse, and I said I had to go to work, right? I can't stay long. And then I told her where I worked, and then that was it.
Oh, I bet that was at a freedom protest.
I should have just said, I make sandwiches. I shouldn't have said anything, right? But no, actually, I probably did the right thing.
Are you aware of the JP&P, the Journalistic Principles and Practice for Global News?
Well, I'm aware of a document, and I read some of it, and I've seen it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's been a long-standing policy with Chorus?
I don't know. I just was made aware of it kind of Friday. It's not something I've ever even looked at before.
You don't remember being asked to read it?
No.
Well, you know what? You stood for what you believe, and when I say stood, you ended up on stage. So how did it go from chatting in the crowd to you're up there and you're speaking to the people who attended that protest?
To be honest, maybe part of me wanted to say something. But when she was making a speech, I didn't realize she was making the speech because I was kind of goofing around and making jokes. And then I'm like, oh, she's making a speech. Oh, I better be quiet. And then all of a sudden she went, Anita is here she's the director at Global News. I'm like, no. I'm a director, right? I don't control what goes on the news. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, hi. And then she was like, oh, she's here to tell her truth. I said, oh, no.
Research is just looking something up on the internet, and we are reading what other doctors are saying. We can read. Did the mainstream media forget that we can read?
Oh no. And then of course with so many camera phones that went back to Global, and how does that look? Mm-hmm. One of your own is talking. Well, I didn't say anything bad.
Can you confirm you were at a rally on December the 12th, 2021?
Yes.
Okay. Did you have permission to represent Global News at this rally?
I was not representing Global News.
Okay. Did you let anyone else know in advance that you were going to this rally?
Like who? No, not at all.
Your manager or anyone at Global?
No, I didn't go on behalf of Global.
I didn't know what was coming at me, and I didn't know what I was going to say. I said all that from the heart. I mean, I can speak off the top of my head. Boy, can I ever, right? I'm just only realizing that now. But I did not believe I was wrong. I did not believe I was wrong. And that's what gave me the confidence.
So I would just say I'm sick of this discrimination. When people talk about their freedoms, it means that I should have the choice whether my 12-year-old takes this vaccine or not. Okay? You have taken that right away from me. And you have now ostracized my child because he can't go to a movie. He can't go to a restaurant. He can't go to the gym.
And then they were like, well, she's too much trouble. And then I think I had I can't even remember, there was some other meeting, and I got the unpaid suspension for 3 days.
I didn't go anywhere as a representative of the company or of Global News. I went as a private citizen to find out what the heck is going on, because I'm quite interested in another side of the story. I did not go to speak to anyone to say, hey, I'm on Global, talk to me. I'm not on Global. I'm just a worker there. I'm not a reporter or journalist or anything at all. And I didn't identify myself as such. I just said I got to dash off and go to work. And once I said where I worked, she got very excited, this lady. And the reason that I went to that rally is because there's lots of doctors and things that are not getting maybe the press that they deserve or the coverage. I went because I'm curious. I went, if anything, I go to uphold journalistic principles that maybe we should be upholding as a news organization.
And then at one point I had to go to work and direct one of their shows. Oh, I had a whole big busy day to direct shows there. And I believe this was December 29th. I can't remember as well, but I believe it was. So I was sitting in a control room with one other person. I was about 10 to 15 feet away from that person and with a wall of plexiglass in between them. And I get thirsty. Full disclosure, I don't know, my throat always is kind of dry and I'm always sipping water and my mask is always dangling. Well, 2 years in, if my mask is dangling, that is my business. I'm not going to make anyone else sick, but somebody walked by and snitched on me. Because now we're snitching on people. We are not snitching on the government for actually doing all the harms that they've done. We're snitching on people for a dangling mask. So somebody did, my boss called me, said your mask protocol, you are not adhering to the mask protocol or something like that. You're not wearing it properly. And then I was fired after that. I think that I was really well liked there. I probably wasn't well liked the day that I got thrown out of there for my dangling mask because I was slowly saying goodbye and getting my purse and I had my jacket on and they had some manager type, I won't say his name, come and literally come to take me out of the building. He goes, "I'm here to escort you out." And I said to him, "I have worked here 25 years. I know where the front door is. Thank you very much." So I went screaming. I was also fired, I think, because of my social media. By accident on Twitter, I had put I was a global employee because I hadn't used my Twitter since 2013. This is how out of it I am on that. I only started speaking up when this was happening. And then it said I was a global BC director. So when they told me that, I said, okay, I'll take that off. You have the right to be upset about that. I'm sorry. I will take that off. And then it was a couple days after that that they still fired me for the mask dangling and for tweeting. And you know what I tweeted? I said, "Why are the gyms closed and the strip clubs open?" I said, "Can somebody please ask the provincial health officer why that is so?"
Well, it seems like a fair question. It was a similar one that was asked when that was the case while churches were closed too.
Yeah.
So how about your colleagues? You worked there for a long time. What was your relationship like with them before and now after you've spoken out?
I think that I was well liked. I think that people liked me. I'm a pretty friendly, genuine person, but I'm a pretty, opinionated. Like I'm outspoken or whatever, but I'm quiet when I have to be quiet. I think I was well liked. I don't think there was really anybody there that hated me or disliked me. Maybe somebody thought I was too hyper or something. I don't know, but I think I was generally well liked and capable at my job. And there's one of my best friends there, he's an editor, he doesn't agree with me. And that makes me sad because it's really ruined our friendship, this disagreement. And I still love him and I won't say anything bad about him, but it's the disagreements that are dissolving relationships. And I can't help but think that, did somebody want this for us? Is this like a game for somebody to divide us the way they're dividing us and they're laughing at us? One side feels so strongly this way, one side feels so strongly this way, and the battle is on.
It kind of reminds me of that science experiment with the ants. You've got the red ants and the black ants in a jar. They get along until someone shakes the jar. Then they attack each other instead of asking who shook the jar.
It's a bit sad, isn't it? It's a bit sad we couldn't find a way to get along, and it's a bit sad that the battle still continues. The battle should stop. But now the battle is raging for your voice to be heard, so it's the independent journalists that are rising up because we are telling the truth, and we now need to be recognized, and we're working hard. Nobody's giving us a grant for money or whatever. We're funding all this on our own. So it's time, maybe it's our time.
Comment below and let me know what you thought of Anita's fiery words for Global. And if you want to hear more from her, you can find her at AK Straight Speaks on Rumble. I'm Drea Humphrey, and this is Rebel News. Again, at Rebel News, we bring you the other side of the story, and that includes getting our boots on the ground across Canada to cover what's really happening at the freedom convoys that have started an international movement for freedom. If you want the facts that you can trust on those convoy reports, including Ottawa's at Parliament, please follow for regular updates at convoyreports.com. And you can also donate there to cover the cost to do those reports.